the No Limit Selling Podcast, where mindset meets sales and leadership. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. Today we have Mark Podolsky. Did I pronounce it right, Mark?
Amazing.
Superb. And not many people know this, but Mark is dirty and he's rich. No, wait a minute. That's the name of his book, Dirty Rich, which you guys can access. There's a link that we'll be putting in the show notes so you can get that book. And the thing that separates Mark from people that talk about it, he actually does it. He's done 6,000 land deals so far and counting. And he's an expert at, how you can use raw land to create a passive income. Mark, welcome to the program.
Umar, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So before we get started, why don't you tell us what is a raw land deal? Like what exactly is that? I get a sense of it, but I'm sure there's more nuance to it than I suspect.
Yeah, let's use you as a case study. I'm just going to walk you step by step exactly how I do it. So Umar, where do you live?
Right now, Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. Okay, great. So I'm going to assume that you own 5 acres of raw land where I live in Arizona. And you owe $200 in back taxes. So you're advertising 2 important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Canada. The property is in Arizona. And number 2, you're distressed financially in some weird way because we don't pay for things like our property taxes. We don't value them in the same way. As a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Umar, if you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your 5-acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months.
Right.
I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale. Let's say it's $10,000 and divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500 for that 5-acre parcel. Now you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. In reality, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm you still own the property. I have to confirm back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. And so I outsource this to my team in Jamaica. They're connected to an American title company, and they'll do all this work for me. Now, if it was over $5,000, I wouldn't use that team. I wouldn't take any title risk, and I'd close traditionally through an American title company. But this is only $2,500. I'll take a little bit of risk. You know, it's very rare for anything to come up. And so everything comes out nice, clean, and I buy it from you for $2,500. So now I'm going to flip this property, and I'm going to make a cash flow like a rental home. So I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
You.
No, I already I bought it. Now I'm selling.
Okay. Are you going to sell it back to me?
You. No, you're not going to buy it. No.
So who is it?
It's the neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy, protect your views, know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy. Now, if the neighbors don't buy, I'll go to my buyers list. The buyers list passes. I'll go to a little website you may have heard of. It's called Craigslist. It's the 15th most trafficked website in the United States. I'll go to one I know you've heard of called Meta or Facebook, buy, sell groups in the marketplace. And then I'm going to go to the lands, landmodo.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landcentury.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is I'm going to make it irresistible. So all I'm going to ask for is a $2,500 down payment from my buyer. So they can control it for $2,500. So I get my money out on the down payment. I could go 6 to 10 months out. And then I'm just making a car payment. Let's say $2,500 down, $297 a month at 9% interest for the next 84 months. So it's a one-time sale. I get my money out as soon as possible. Now I'm getting $297 a month at 9% interest for the next 84 months. Umar, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with the tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation that they have in the States. So then it's a simple game. Can we create enough land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses. And then we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
Bravo. A brilliant thing. Just before we go forward, let's just hear from who we are. The No Limit Selling Podcast, where mindset meets sales and leadership. So, Mark, that is like a simple, brilliant way to execute that strategy without all the headaches that you normally have with tenants and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I suspect you do is you teach other people how to do this trick as well.
Absolutely. So we teach people how to do it. And the whole mission that I have is I want to help everyone along the economic spectrum. If you have more time than money, I have everything from free training all the way up to one-on-one coaching. Well, that's if you have more money than time, right? And if you're rich, I help you become wealthy, right? Think doctors and lawyers who have solved their money issues, but not their time issues. So my whole mission is to help people solve their money issues and their time issues and move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs into self-actualization and figure out what they really want to do in life.
So how many students have you had over the last, you've been around since 2001. When did you start getting students and spitballing? How many have you had?
Yeah. So the way I got into coaching was I've been a professional land investor since 2001. I was a miserable, micromanaged 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And it got so bad for me. I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I get the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy and he's telling me there's a side hustle. He's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar, and flipping them online and making a 300% return on his investment. So I didn't believe him. I did it. And it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. And I did that full time until about 2011. And then in 2011, I got a call out of the blue. I'm on vacation in Northern California. And this guy's like, hey, will you teach me how to do what you do? I'm like, I don't teach this. And he's like, what if I pay you this? I'm like, oh,
I do teach this.
Well, maybe I'll teach it. So, so I told my wife at the time, I said, hey, I'm going to teach Tori how to do the land business. She's like, why on earth would you do that? She's like, you're going to create your own competition. So I said, oh, that's interesting. So I put on my investment banker hat and I thought, well, how big is this market? And it's massive. So there's billions of acres of raw land for sale. You couldn't think of a more boring real estate niche. You're not going to go on HGTV or the DIY network and see flip this land. The before pictures raw land, the after pictures raw land. And so I started teaching it and I discovered that by helping other people and changing their lives, it was way more gratifying than just flipping land for me. And so I do both, but I really love having that impact.
All right, brilliant. So we're going to break the rest of the podcast up into two areas. One is you, Mark, as you go out there and you do this stuff. So why don't you walk us through a deal that you did, how you found the land, how you approached the owner, and tell us one where the owner was reluctant, but you basically convinced him this is a good thing. So that's kind of the sales aspect of, what the show's about. So think of a deal that comes up that you basically, how you found the land, how you approached the owner, how you got the deal done, especially if there was some pushback, would be a brilliant story to share.
Yeah. So I remember several years ago, we sent out an offer and the guy mailed back a counter offer and it was ridiculous. I think my offer might have been $15,000 and it came back at $500,000.
Oh, yeah.
And so, usually when you're that far apart, you just ignore it. But for fun, I thought, I would call. So I called him back. I said, hey, I got your counter offer of $500,000. And I'm just curious what improvements you made to the land where we could be so far off. I'm like, is there a home on there? Did you drop a well? Did you put power in? Because I'm not seeing any of that in our research. It's just raw and developed land. So can you just educate me? Where did I miss the mark? And he's like, oh, wait, I didn't make any improvements to that land. So I said, well, can you just help me understand why you countered at 500,000? Like, can you just help me with your calculations? Like, well, I just thought that, it'd be worth that much to you. I'm like, well, the offer's the offer. I'm like, if you really want to make yourself feel good, you could just, count it at $5 billion, because the probability of getting, $500,000 and $5 billion are the same. So you might as well tell your friends and family you've got a $5 billion piece of land. And so he started laughing a little bit, and he's like, okay, well, would you do it for $20,000? I said, no, I could do $15,000. And, look, how long you been paying property taxes on this? When's the last time you went out to look at the property? What was your dream with this? And just kind of built more rapport, and got my price, bought it, sold it. He was happy. He was able to use that money to do something more productive and stop paying the property taxes, and was super happy.
So there's a couple of things that come up in that story. Number one is I thought, what the hell, I'll call him back. And
Right.
something interesting happens there. And what happens there is this. Hold that thought for a minute. I'm going to go to a different thought. It's like you get someone to do a piece of acting, and it's like, and it's not that great. And you say, okay, cameras are off. So what do you really want to do? And they do it flawlessly when the cameras are off. Like, we give ourselves permission when we're not serious about it. And just as a lot of people, it's like, I got to call this guy back. I got to convince him I got to do this. But you went in playful mode, which is really liberating for someone to do that. And so, A, kudos on that. And then two, understanding that rapport, building that rapport was so critical to building trust to get this person to see things in a different light. So any other thing we want to highlight in that interaction that other people could go, oh, I don't want to miss that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is really important. I think that the idea of, how can I help you solve your problem, and build that rapport is so important. And also knowing that the worst thing they can do is hang up or curse at me or say no. And now I've got a rep in that next time I'm even, my skin's a little thicker, right? Each rep I get in, each no I get, my skin gets a little bit thicker, and I'm quicker now, to get back on that phone and get another no, as opposed to letting someone, bring me down.
So
and have
another
their
way,
energy.
so people talk about the numbers game. Hey, it's just a numbers game. You do this, and which sucks, actually, really does. But if you change it up a little bit and say it's an improvement game, the more calls I have, the better I get, especially if I'm looking post-call and doing an autopsy of a call that went really well. This went really well. Why did it go well? And it could have been just happenstance. The guy happened to be there. Or it could be that, I pitched it slightly different. Or when the guy said this, I did this. And you learn. And of course, when things go sideways, doing the autopsy to figure out what you need to do better. So yeah, it's think of it, dear listeners and viewers, is that it's an improvement game. And that will allow you to kind of keep the focus on what you really need to do, is be of service and get better as you go. So Mark, on the other side of the equation, you're teaching students, coaching students through the free model, the courses, and the one-on-one. Give me a tale of two people. Somebody that just shone at this. They just took it as like, bam, I got it, I go. And somebody else that struggled, that you were able to help them diagnose what was going on, and you were able to help them overcome whatever block it was so they could actually be successful at it. So give me like a right out of the gate success story, and then one where you had to coach them through whatever block they had.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of the gate successful is really rare in real estate, right? The whole adage in real estate is the first year you're going to starve. Now, in our model, that's not the case. You can do your first deal in about 6 weeks. But what I've seen is when the people who do really well in the beginning, they are systematic in their learning process, so they don't get themselves overwhelmed. They tend to not overthink things, and they just follow the recipe. And then they
Right.
come out and they start doing great. It's people that have they don't have beginner's mind, like they're using this thing and that thing, and instead of following a recipe, like they think they should be a chef, and they're not ready to be a chef yet. And so what I have to do is sort of reframe their mindset into that beginner's mind, and also just let them know, hey, look, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Right.
And you have these arbitrary expectations, like, you should be impatient with your actions, but patient with your results. And so let go of the results. They're going to come as long as you're making the actions correct. And think about like your baby, right? When you have a baby, you don't look at the baby like, oh, it's, hasn't walked in 12 months.
You
This doesn't
loser.
walk.
Yeah.
This is a bad one, right?
Yeah.
No, they all walk, right?
I want my money back.
But they don't quit, right? You watch a
absolutely.
baby learn to walk, they don't quit, and the parents don't quit on them. So I kind of put on that parent hat and say, look, you're just a baby in this business, and you need to give yourself grace, just like a baby. Use that Ted Lasso line: take out the scissors and cut yourself some slack.
I like that. Somebody once mentioned this. It was like, who's more successful at Subway franchises, MBAs or farmers? And farmers beat MBAs every single day of the week because they just have the process. They follow it doggedly. And the MBAs right out of the gate is like, hey, I know a better way. I can improve this. So brilliant. So now help me with a story of someone that came in and they may have struggled on the phone conversation or whatever it was. Share one of those stories, how you coached them out of it and got them to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we have people who are in the very beginning and they have their own thing going on, right? Like they need to get a sale. So they've invested in training, they invested in the raw land, and now they need to get a sale because they personally have stress. And all we have to do is shift their mindset. It's never about you. And as soon as your prospect feels for an instant, it's about you and you're overcoming objections, and it's not about them, the sale always goes sideways. So if you can just put on your doctor hat, what does a doctor do? They just ask questions and diagnose a problem. And if it doesn't solve the problem, let them go. Just say, look, this land's not for you. If you want to move out there with your family and it's 30 miles from power and utilities and services, not for you. If you want to use it recreationally, great. We're not in the convincing business. We're in the problem-solving business. If we can't solve the problem, let them go. And so then people feel more confident in, okay, I'm not selling, right? I'm helping, and I'm solving this problem.
Love that. So, Mark, you've been in the business, in banking, in this and other endeavors. What are 3 pieces of advice, selling advice, that you would give, like 3 tips that people could implement today, just outside of what you're doing right here, just pure sales? What comes to mind?
Pure sales. I think that, I think about people that make a lot of money, right? So Jimmy Fallon makes a lot of money. What's he do all day? He asks questions.
Preps. Yeah.
Right? He preps, but he asks questions, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got actors, right? They know a script so well, we believe that they're that character. So I think if you combine good question acting and then knowing your script, and it's a really powerful sales combination.
Brilliant. And one thing I've mentioned a few times on this show is getting someone when they're talking to a prospect and recording it, and then getting them to call up a friend and ask them for a date, or, hey, let's hang out this weekend, record it, and let the person listen to the 2 recordings. They can actually hear instantly. When I was talking to a potential client, voice is tight and stressed. When I'm talking to my friend, it's warm. And then it's like, oh, I get that. And it's creates a fix really, really quickly for a lot of people because you have no idea how you sound. So what's another tip?
Yeah, I think that what you said is really important. Like, have fun, like be yourself.
Yeah.
And be, yeah, I mean, like, we're all kind of weird, right? Embrace that as well. You know, so I think that it's there, sales is a very subtle thing,
Mm.
and transferring that enthusiasm, helping people is it's just one of those things. Like, you've got to practice, because at first it's not natural. I mean, if we listen to like your first few podcasts, my first few podcasts, they probably weren't great. I
Yep.
know mine were. Yours might have been great, but I know mine were terrible. I can't even listen to them now. But after a while, like, I got more comfortable. I found my voice, and
Mm.
now it's way more natural. So I think having that idea of, hey, look, um, I'm in this just to get better. I'm in this just to improve. And again, letting go of the results. Eventually, the more you do something, especially if you've got good training from like a coach,
Right.
and you just follow that, eventually you're gonna get really, really good at it, and staying with it. So I think of success like a bridge. If you're going to build a bridge brick by brick, you don't stop halfway while you're building the bridge. You're like, oh wait, here's another bridge I can start building, right? Maybe it's this thing, right? Like, no, stay with that. Get good at something.
Absolutely. Actually, I was just started to read. I'm not into rap music, but I am pretty amazed by people that are quite successful. And on my feed, something came for Tupac Shakur, the rapper who was assassinated. So I'm going through his biography, and there's this scene near the beginning where he's got a potential to play a part in a play, and he's like early teens, is like maybe 11 or 12, before the teenage years, and he's going to get this part that's going to be live on stage, and he just rehearses and rehearses and rehearses, and he gets his audition and of course lands the gig. But it goes back to people that make it look easy only make it look easy by building that bridge brick by brick and getting better as they go. So
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah,
before we part
100%.
company, any last words that you want to share? Where can people find you? Any last thoughts before we part company today?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to quote the great Zig Ziglar.
Mm.
And if you'll do for the next 3 to 5 years what other people won't do, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what other people can't do. And so notice he
Love it.
didn't say the next 3 to 5 months. It was the 3 to 5 years. And so those would be my parting words. And then as far as where people can find me, they can go to thelandgeek.com. There's also a link to get our free book, Dirt Rich. And you just got to pay for the shipping. But if this model resonates with you, we're here to help.
Superb. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. If you liked it, please subscribe, give us a great rating on iTunes, and go check Mark's book out. It's going to be, even if you don't do it, this sounds like a genius thing to do. Get the book. Mark, once again, thanks so much for being on the show. Let me end the broadcast and we'll chat post-show. If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.